Greetings, fellow songwriters and seekers, and welcome back to Muse and Measure. If you haven't done so yet, please hit that subscribe button down below. I want to start a short series on seeds. This beginning stage of songwriting is often overlooked, but really, if you don't have good seeds, then you're not going to have great songs. And so we really need to pay close attention to seeds. And in this video, I want to talk about the spiritual aspects of seeds, because the seed has been used as a metaphor in all the world religions. And I want to talk about why, but also connect it with the potential that we have in songwriting, not only to grow as songwriters and artists, but also spiritually, and why the seed as a metaphor used in religion can also be a great insight into our songwriting practice. And as we gather these seeds, these ideas, which often can be the source of frustration, because you maybe have notebooks full. I've got, my phone is full of hundreds and hundreds of song ideas, little seeds that I've collected, and maybe only 1 or 2% of them actually get developed into full-fledged songs. But this is also true in the literal farming and use of seeds in agriculture, is that you have a certain amount of seeds, and there's quite a few of them that are not going to develop into a crop that you're going to be able to harvest. So that's just part of life. Not everything is going to reach its full potentiality or grow into something that you want also, that can be morphed into something else. Okay, so let's talk about kind of the spiritual basis of seeds and try and connect it with the spiritual. First of all, what's incredible about seeds is there's so much potential within a small little thing. Think about, a giant tree, a sequoia, started out as one little seed. And the same thing with songs. There's this one little kernel of an idea, maybe a word or a phrase, a melodic motif, that then is going to develop into something that's huge, maybe even something as grand as an opera. Something that's hours and hours long came from one little seed idea. Think of Beethoven's da-da-da-da. That gets developed into a whole movement, and of the Fifth Symphony, the first movement. So these tiny little seeds have the potential for greatness within them, and smallness. And this is true of ourselves and of our practice. Just by spending a little bit of time every single day, 5, 10, 15 minutes, maybe a half an hour, however long you can find and you have the stamina for, you're planting these seeds within yourself for potential growth. And in your brain, you have neurons, which are like seeds sprouting out these dendrites and making connections. And the more you do something, the more connections that are made between these neurons, and the more they get coated and with myelin, and they become much more quick and efficient at doing a task. So even though you don't feel it, it's such a small incremental process. By planting these seeds in your life and in your daily practice, you really are changing yourself and making yourself grow. The little, however you like to think of your inner life, inner self, that little garden of life is making all these connections. So be very careful about what seeds you plant, whether they're negative or positive, and you have to really kind of be the steward of your own inner garden as these different plants grow and connect and work with each other. Of course, you have stifling weeds as well, which can kill the plant that you want to grow. So you have to look out for those as well. But within that seed is the potential for all these different things: positive, negative, spiritual, material, all these different things. So that's why the seed is such a powerful metaphor for that purpose. And inner growth is another aspect. So from within the seed, this little, as long as the conditions are right, you have the right amount of sunlight, and you have moisture, inside that seed, something is triggered and it grows from the inside out. So the same is true of your practice, but also of your song. So from this little seed, if you give it the right possible conditions for growth, you give it the attention that it needs, you let it take its own course in a way. And this is also a really important aspect of connecting our spiritual and songwriting practice with the literal use of seeds is, these things are going to grow And you can shape them and kind of nurture them and guide them along, but ultimately they have their own inner nature that they are going to fulfill, and you have to let that take its course. This is definitely true with teaching children, is that you realize that, yeah, you might have an ideal where you want them to get to some certain place, but you also have to allow them to be themselves and to grow out of their own nature and fulfill their own potential. Okay? Of course, death and rebirth is another aspect of why seeds are such a powerful metaphor, because the seed in its original state has to die in a way in order to be continually reborn and transformed into something else completely. So you might, it'd be counterintuitive to think that, looking at a tiny little seed and seeing a giant tree, that they are connected somehow in some kind of process. But it's this death and rebirth, this continual process of renewing and becoming, that is such an important aspect of us as human beings, and accepting the change in our lives as we get older, and seeing that our potential is often going to take different shapes and forms as we move along. Okay, so death and rebirth is another aspect of the seed. And then, of course, lastly, sowing and harvesting. The more seeds you have, the more you plant, the more harvest you're going to have, because, as we said, not all seeds are going to grow. So if you just have one or two little song ideas, that's probably not going to be enough, because they may fail, right? So you have to have lots and lots of seed ideas in this process. Okay. And then lastly, I want to talk about the mustard seed that famous Buddhist parable talks about. There was a woman whose baby dies, and she goes to the Buddha and says, "Please, please, please help me if you can bring him back." And he says, well, go to every house in your town and ask, anyone who has not had the experience of a death of a loved one, and bring me back one mustard seed from the house, from any house, and I will grant your wish. And of course, in this process, she learns that every single person has to deal with death. And she has this revelation that she's, first of all, her situation's not unique, as tragic as it is, and as heartbreaking as it is, but she gets some kind of greater perspective that this is an aspect of life, right? So in this way, dealing with all the pain and anguish and disappointment of life is like thinking about the seed in that way, that it is somehow connecting us all together.